Andre Petroski. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you, brother?
I told you
Pop,
I'm a little nervous,
pop, Popko?
Popko, yeah,
Hey, what's up?
my last name. So I told you I was a little nervous. I was hoping you weren't going to show. Thrilled that you did. Thrilled that you
Right.
did. Honored that you did. I appreciate your time, but I'm a little out of my comfort zone tonight.
That's good, dude. We all need that.
That's what they say. Yep. So Andre is an MMA fighter in the middleweight division for the UFC, and
Yes, sir.
coming off his third straight victory, which is awesome.
Yeah.
How's that feel?
It feels good. It was like really crucial timing because I'm at the end of my contract. So, um, typically, if you can finish a contract on a win, it's like really, really good. But if you can finish it on 3 wins, it's like you're in a really good spot
Yeah.
as far as for that new contract. So, we'll see. I mean, but it's looking good.
That's good. I hope you get that. Um, I'm a very casual UFC guy.
That's
I uh,
okay. I like that too.
I
You
I've
better
been
have some
watching.
good questions then.
I've been watching for about 10 years now. Just like I probably get 2 fights a year, maybe.
I wouldn't consider that a casual, but okay.
What would you consider it?
If you've been following MMA for 10 years, I would say you're a good fan.
Okay. All right. Well, I got into it because of Joe Rogan. Huge Rogan fan.
Respect to Joe.
And yeah, just and I'm getting into it more now. My son just turned 7. And I'm trying to get him into jujitsu and stuff like that, just to learn, um, you know, about himself, discipline, all those things, and learn how to take, just be able to take care of himself. Because the world's a mean place, right? Could be.
Where do you live?
I live in the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so not too
That's where
far
my
from you.
family's from.
Well, that's how I got hooked up with you. Sean Boyle,
Yeah.
I guess is like a distant cousin.
Yeah. I wish I could answer how, but it's my grandmom's side. I think his mom is my grandmom's cousin or something like that.
He told me what it was. He lost me.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't go back up there very often. We used to go up for graduation parties and whatnot, but my grandfather's been sick for a while now, so they're not able to make it back up there very often.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe you're related to Michael Turner as well,
Michael
because
Turner.
they're direct cousins. They're first cousins. Sean and Michael and his brother Brad and their brother Josh. I'm not sure, but
You would know better than me.
well, I was just what I was told, so I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah, that's how I kind of he's been talking about you. I ran into him maybe a year ago. He's like, "Oh, my cousin." He said cousin. It's a little more distant than that, but he's Andre's fighting tonight, and I've never had the pleasure. I mean, I've watched the fights after the fact. I've never had a chance to see you live. Um, but yeah, so I've been trying to get into it more, and like I said, my son and trying to get him involved. He does baseball right now, so it's kind of a lot with that. So maybe once the season's over, I'll try and get him into the. But he'll watch the fights with me. It's kind of
Yeah,
fun.
I can relate. I try to get my kids involved
Yeah,
um a little bit more, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. So I want to talk to you about how like the early start of Andre. Where you're from.
I'm from Springfield, Delaware County.
Okay.
We're about 10 minutes from the Philly airport.
All right.
Um, a decent town, like a good area. Family, all wrestlers.
Yeah.
My dad ran a karate studio, did a little bit of boxing, but nonetheless, I grew up watching like the original ECW, UFC, and obviously grew up wrestling my whole life,
Yeah. So you're kind of destined for this.
for sure.
You didn't have a choice.
Well, I was like the perfect prodigy. I was like the perfect little robot for my dad. So I did whatever he told me to do.
It worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I have a great life today, so I did something right,
Yeah.
or he did something right. I'll say.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So you wrestled from like early age, through high school, college.
Yep. Yep. I was obsessed with wrestling. That was like my first addiction. And then I went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I wrestled there for 2 years. And then basically just one college to the next. I ended up doing a year at Bloomsburg, left Bloomsburg, did 2 years at Kutztown, um, and then ended up graduating from Kutztown, stayed in town for a few months, found a jiu-jitsu school there, started training jiu-jitsu there, and then when I ran out of money, I came back to Delaware County and then continued training jiu-jitsu, and then met someone who was had an MMA fight and was able to set me up with the promoter, and then 30 days later I had an MMA fight.
It sounds so easy.
Yeah.
I wish it
Yeah.
was that easy, right?
Right.
Oh man. So I mean, how does wrestling kind of parlay into, the jujitsu aspect of it? I mean, I'm sure that's kind of, is it, I don't want to say seamless, but that's pretty like common.
Into jiu-jitsu or into MMA?
Both, I guess.
Well, I think it's a good question for my most recent fight. Um, but the short answer is that I decide where the fight takes place.
Hmm.
That's like the biggest thing. Like, when I fight strikers, really good strikers, um, we fight on the ground, you know?
Right.
When I fight really good grapplers, like my last fight I fought Rodolfo Vieira. So Rodolfo was a seven-time absolute world champion in jiu-jitsu. Absolute meaning, um, like when they hold the world championships, they'll have each weight class, and then they'll have the absolute division where anybody can enter, no weight class. So he won the absolute division 7 times,
Wow.
and then he did, and he won his weight class 50. So really good jujitsu guy,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But if you can't get the fight to the ground, it's worthless.
Right.
So, especially in my most recent fight, most recent fight, the wrestling is just such a major thing. Like I determine whether we're going to the ground or not, and that's such a huge a
Advantage.
huge advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're good on the feet, we're going to the ground. If you're good on the ground, we're staying on our feet.
Right.
So, yeah, it helps a lot.
Yeah, you can control it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
One I saw in the second round, he got a good jab in, and you like acknowledged it.
yeah,
You're like, yeah, okay. You guys touch gloves, and that was it was a cool like respect moment.
yeah.
Does that happen a lot? Like, is there a lot of respect amongst fighters, or is there some bad blood here and there?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some bad blood, but um I'm like a competitor. Like I'm not necessarily as much like a fighter. Like I have a lot of teammates being from Philly. Like I have a lot of teammates that are like fighters, like killers, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm not really as much a killer, but like I'm a competitor. Like I've been competing since I was like 4 years old. So
Wow.
like as far as like emotions towards my opponent, like I have none. Like I don't really care for or like I have no ill will towards my opponent. Like I'm just out there, I'm on a mission. You know what I mean? Like
You got a
it's
job to
really
do.
it's rarely ever personal.
Right.
And that's how I compete the best. Like when emotions get involved, like it can kind of distract me from like I can lose focus. Now, some people are good at that. Some people um, they got that killer mentality, and it helps them. And they can use that adrenaline and that like anger to their favor. But I'm a competitor. I'm not like a killer. You
Right.
know what I mean? I
Which you
love competing.
and would you say you're kind of more calculated in how you prepare and how you manage the fight, as
Yeah,
opposed to being
especially
that?
my last fight. Like, we had a game plan that was very specific to Hidalgo. Like, beat the jab, beat the leg. And we just we had a very specific game plan. Defend the shot. Every time I defend a takedown, I have to make him pay for it. Like, he has to suffer because he didn't get that takedown. So um we stuck to the game plan like incredibly, um it paid off. So I would say that's one advantage of being a competitor and not a fighter. Um,
Gotcha.
Fighters just go out there and just want to kill at all moments. Like,
Yeah.
they're not able to come in with a different game plan and be present and um, make adjustments on the fly or anything like that.
Yeah. And what was it like, your first fight? It could be in the UFC or just the first fight in general. What was that moment like for you? Like being in that moment?
So I fought um, when I was growing up. Like, I would fight all the time. I would fight my brother, my dad. I would fight different. I would fight all the time. I always got in trouble for fighting. I would fight. Like, I loved fighting. But I never was like a boxer or anything. Like, I never fought like competitively. So my first fight, I fought at the Borgata, and I sold like a bunch of tickets. Like, I sold over 100 tickets. I did really well. And I fought this guy, Jesse Stokes, and I had been training for 30 days. So I wrestled my whole life, and I had been doing jujitsu for like 6 months. And when I say I was doing jujitsu, like, I was doing it every day. But I got this fight, and then I went into an MMA gym like the next day. So like, I wasn't doing like any striking or any MMA for like a little while. So I did it for like 30 days. So I went in very green is my point. Like, I was
Yeah.
very new to it. But my first fight, I took this guy down and I submitted him in like maybe like a minute,
Wow.
and I was immediately addicted. Like, I was like,
This is it.
this is really what I want to do, like, as a career. So I like immediately gave up like looking for like any type of like corporate job or anything like that. And I was just like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. No turning back.
Yeah.
And I think from what I saw, you've taken some fights like almost like last minute. Is
Yeah.
that something you like to do? Is that like I think a lot of guys like a full camp, but like, when you have 10 days or whatever it might be, is there some kind of like advantage to that?
Yeah. So, for example, most of my fights, like, I'd say half of my UFC fights have been on short notice. And the benefit of that is that, for example, when I fought Michelle Pereira, I was in Thailand, and I was like coming off, I think I had 5 straight wins. So I was in Thailand on vacation, and they called me, and they were like, my manager was like, "Hey, they want you to fight next weekend." And I was like, "Nah, I'm good. Like, I got the ADCC trials. I was gonna do these grappling nationals for grappling. I was like, I'm good. I'm already registered for the trials. Like, I had just fought Mearshart, so I was like in a good position. I went 5-0, and they're like, well, no one else wants to fight him. He had a short notice. He had a fight scheduled, and the guy had to pull out. Nobody else wants to fight him, and they need someone to take the spot. And I was like, what do you mean no one else will fight him? Like, they offered it to a couple of guys, and everyone said no. And I was like, all right, pay me a bunch of money. I'll go fight him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's basically what happened. I came up with I went back to my room. I was in Thailand and I went back to my room and I was like, all right, what's the number I can't say no to? And they came back with like 10 more than that. So I was like, all right, fuck it, let's do it.
Right.
So I flew from Thailand to Vegas and it was like the worst weight cut of my life. Like I got to Vegas on Monday and I was 23 and a half pounds over.
Wow.
Yeah, so I cut 23 and a half pounds from Monday to Friday. And then I had to go fight this killer that nobody wanted to fight. Um, but like my contract that I just finished was all based on me taking that fight.
Mm.
So, the next four fights after that were all pay, the pay was all based on me taking a fight that no one else would take.
Yeah.
So it pays off. It is the moral of the story. And I've done it a couple times. I've gotten some favorable matchups just because I'm willing to fight on short notice.
Yeah, I guess, goes to, doing the things that others don't want to do.
Exactly. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, that's what it is.
And I mean, I can't even imagine, I've been going to the gym for like 6 months and I'm down 13 pounds in 6 months. So uh, how,
That's still impressive.
well, how you doing 23?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you, like it was horrible.
Yeah.
Um, I thought I had kidney failure.
Wow.
Um, when I got so I made weight, obviously, and then when I get to the fight, so we have like almost 36 hours from weigh-ins till the fight.
Mhm.
And I get to the arena the night of the fight, and I hadn't taken a piss from the time of weigh-ins to the fight.
Wow.
Like my body was like in like extreme like starvation mode where
Yeah.
it was just like holding all the liquids. So I get to the fight and they're trying to drug test me for the fight and I couldn't piss. Like I tried to do it two different times and I only put it in like, I don't know, 20 milliliters and I needed like 40 for say, and I'm just making up numbers. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I literally couldn't do the drug test because I don't know what was going on with my body, but it was just like not releasing any of the liquids that I had just like consumed after weigh-ins. So, and after that, I I reached weights that like I had never reached before. Like I would never get above like 214. Like that was like the highest I ever been. And then like 2 weeks after the fight, I'm like 225, 222. I'm like, dude, I didn't even try. Like, how did I get this big? And it's just like, dude, that's like the damage you do to your body when you cut that much weight in such a short period of time.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's like good.
Can't be.
Can't be, right?
Can't be. I mean, I've been a lot better recently. Like my last and I was like that for a little while where like in between fights I would like balloon up. Like I would get up to like 222, 225 and I was like god damn. And I still had a six pack, so I wasn't like incredibly fat, but nonetheless like I still had to come back down. But recently, I've been like way more disciplined about not like getting super heavy in between fights. Just because I know it's not, one, it's not like healthy for me. And just two, it's like I got to be within striking range if I want to take a short notice fight.
Yeah. Now, I mean, what do you walk around at normally?
Um, right now, I've been staying between like 210 and like 216.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm 210, it's still going to take me like 3 or 4 weeks to get down to weight.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're a big dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the whole thing is like fascinating to me. Just the weight losses and the weight cuts and the fluctuation and the timing of everything like that. It's really a fascinating sport in
It
that.
really doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot of guys that say like there should be like less or like a wider range of weight, so that way
Yeah.
guys aren't trying to get down so
Look, at
much.
the end of the day, we're both gonna weigh 205 pounds when we fight. So like, why are we cutting down to 185
Yeah,
for the day before just to go back? Like, it doesn't make any
yeah,
sense.
it's crazy.
We should fight each other. Like, who gives a shit what we weigh?
Yeah, and
But
for a full camp, like what is that process like? Is that a 6 month thing, or is it how does that look?
like 8 weeks,
8 weeks, okay.
and like if I have a full camp, like I'll get down to like 201, like 2 weeks out, so that I only have to lose like maybe like 14, 15 pounds of water, and it's not bad. That's not bad. Like that's very doable.
Yeah,
Um, if I have the um like the heads up to do it, if I have the time to do it, I can do it much healthier.
yeah. And as far as the training goes, is it a lot of training yourself, or is it a lot of like watching film and doing that kind of stuff, or mix of both?
Everything,
Everything.
brother. We do everything. We'll spar. I'll do boxing sparring Wednesday nights. I'll do MMA sparring Saturday mornings. Um, we watch film. Me and my team watch a lot of film. We study not just my sparring. Like I'll record every single round of sparring that I do, and I'll go back and watch it and see where I'm continuing to make the same mistakes and correct them, and so that we can have a focus in training the next day. But we'll also watch my opponents, my potential opponents. We'll watch guys that we want to fight one day. You know what I mean? We study a lot of I study a lot of film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has an opponent ever backed out on you and you had to another guy jump in?
No, I've been lucky, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Um I had one fight. It was I think it was my fourth or third professional MMA fight. I was fighting this kid, Donnelly Benedetto, at the 2300 arena, like this arena by my house. I sold the most tickets I ever sold. Like I sold like 300 tickets. I sold like 12 grand in tickets. And it was like, so we were the main event or the co-main event, and it was like the third fight of the night, maybe the fourth fight of the night. And this dude went to the doctor and was like, I hurt my wrist warming up, and was like, I can't fight. Yeah. So I had all those people there, and they made us go out into the ring and like make an announcement basically saying like we weren't fighting.
Oh,
It was
jeez.
horrible. I felt so bad.
Yeah. I
I
can
felt
imagine.
that was like the one of the worst feelings. Just like all these people are there, and then you're like, yeah, I'm not fighting. And they're like,
What?
what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so confused. And the guy that I was supposed to fight is just standing there like, um, no, actually, I do want to fight. And they were like, well, you just told the doctor you couldn't fight. And then once you say that to the doctor, it's like, it's all like liability issues.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like imagine if he gets in the ring and
Sure.
gets knocked out and dies.
Right.
Then
Yeah.
they're like, well, what? He did tell you that couldn't fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a tough one. Um, there was these two brothers that I grew up wrestling and watching, the Alton brothers. They were twins, and they were like number one, number two in the country when we were growing up wrestling. And dude, they were like role models for me watching wrestling. That was the only fight that they ever came to.
Hmm.
They hit me up. They're like, "Hey, we're living in Philly. We want to come watch you fight." I was like, "Oh, awesome!" And
Yeah.
they showed up to that one, and the dude, and I never fought.
That sucks.
I know,
That sucks.
I know.
Well, that's a bad moment in the ring, right? Like, what's it like? Um, having and hopefully this happened like a Bruce Buffer, get announce the start of the fight. Like, what's that moment like? I mean, that's like iconic.
I mean,
Or does that not
for
phase you at
for
all?
for me, one of the craziest of those types of moments was walking out at MSG. So
Oh
I
yeah.
fought at Madison Square Garden, and that was like super surreal. Like, dude, Muhammad Ali fought
Hmm.
there. The who's who of boxing fought at MSG. Like Madison Square Garden has like the most history as far as like fighting goes. And I fought this Wellington Turman. He was a Brazilian kid. Um, he trained in Connecticut at the time, and I fought him. And it was just such a crazy experience. Like every takedown I got, the walkout. First off, the walkout was insane. Um, at like 20,000 people, and I feel like even though we weren't the main event, like everyone had just gotten there and gotten to their seats by the time we fought. Like it wasn't like early prelims where like the arena was kind of empty. It was like everybody was there, but they had just gotten there and they were like energetic.
Yeah.
So it was like crazy. So every time I took him down or like Matt returned him, they would just the whole crowd would like they didn't even know who I was, but they would just chant USA, USA. It was just like 20,000 people chanting USA. It was pretty honestly pretty energizing at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, that was a cool experience.
And what's it like after a fight that you've won where, you're being interviewed by DC or Joe Rogan? Like, I mean, I'm a huge fan. That's like not even like on my radar, right? That's never gonna happen for me. But like, is that a cool moment for you, or are you not really phased by that kind of stuff?
No, for sure. I mean, Rogan is, I grew up listening to Joe Rogan podcasts since I was like, even before I started fighting. So like, you're talking about like 15 years listening to this guy, following this guy as he came up and became like more of like a figure in the UFC. Um, yeah, that was like for sure a surreal moment. I forget the first the first time I did a post fight interview with Joe Rogan, but I think it was like either Mearshart, it could have been New York. It was one of the two. But yeah, man. I mean, obviously Joe Rogan's a legend in
Yeah.
MMA.
Yeah. He's just become this monster in general in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like because you're there to do a job, right? You're there to, fight this other person and do a job. I didn't know if that was like a big moment for you or not.
Yeah, I think that it's important, and the only person I've really ever heard talk about this is Conor McGregor, and he would talk about like, like this time around, like I'm trying to appreciate every moment, like, and it's easy not to, like when we're so wrapped up in the moment, we're like so razor focused on like the task of like, all right, I gotta finish this fight, or like I have to, whatever the job is or whatever like the intentions of the fight are. You're so wrapped up in that and so focused on that that you don't like appreciate the fact that like, oh, like Bruce Buffer's introducing you, or like, oh, there's 20,000 fans in the crowd. Like you're trying to ignore that because you don't want to get distracted from your goal.
Right.
But he talks about like this time around, like I'm just taking it all in. Like I'm appreciating everything, which is, I think, important. I do.
Yeah. I guess that kind of comes with age too, right? Because, I mean, how many years do you think you have left?
Who knows, man? It could be one fight. It could be 10 fights. That's God's plan.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm gonna keep fighting until the wheels fall off. It's
Hell
been
yeah.
really good to me, but um, yeah, that's not up to me.
And what's that like too? Because like I think you fought at times like 3 times a year. But it's so much different. There's so much preparation for a fight. There's recovery afterwards. It's not like a baseball game where tomorrow's a new day and it's a new game, and you can kind of, if you lose, you know, tonight at 8 o'clock, you play again tomorrow and try to win again. What is it like to have, all that preparation and, unfortunately there's losses involved and you come off a loss, like, and not knowing, when that next fight might be. Like, what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always like the factor of like how hurt am I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you get knocked out, it's like should I fight in 3 weeks? Like should I take 3 months off? Like should I go back to training when I just got like knocked out? It's kind of they don't really, there's obviously like the doctor's recommendations like after my last fight, even though I won, it was a 3 fight war. Obviously, I never got knocked out, but they still say like, hey, they gave me a 30-day medical suspension, no contact. So it's like for the next 30 days, you're supposed to have no contact. But like, so what happens after that? You know what I mean? It's kind of just you're trying to figure it out. We're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I just find that interesting because there's so much time involved, whether it's a win or a loss, and all that preparation leading up to it too.
Yeah.
Um, it, After your last fight, you made a call out. It's not the first time you've done it to a certain individual, Bo Nickal. Do you think that's next?
I think if we both win our next fights, I think that we will probably fight each other next. That's my assumption. That's my guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that important to you to get to him?
Um, for me, it's important to prove that I'm the best grappler
Hmm.
in the division, and he has made a claim to that. Which, if he loses, all right, then he loses. Then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So I think that I hope he continues to win because I think it'd be a great fight.
Yeah.
But um, it's my job to prove that I'm the best grappler in this division, which I believe I am.
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
You know?
I mean, I just beat the most decorated grappler, the most accomplished grappler in the division.
Right. Right. Oh man. Yeah, like I said, I was watching some of the previous fights, and that would be a good one. That'd be a good one. I hope we see that. Sean's already
I
talking. He's
like
like,
it.
"Yo," Sean's already talking. He's like, "Yo, we're going to the next fight."
Yeah. Well, they are coming back to Newark June 7th. They just announced that.
That's cool.
So, if all things go well,
There's rumors of Jones and Aspinall. Do you think that's gonna happen?
um, yeah, I don't see why not. I think
Yeah.
if the UFC pays Jones enough money, he'll do it. And I think that obviously the UFC has enough money to do whatever they want. Um, if they want to pay John Jones $25 million, they have the money to do it.
Hmm.
Even if they take a loss for that card, you know what I mean. Even if that card they don't make any money. Let's say John Jones agrees to fight Aspinall at in Newark June 7th, and they pay him $5 million more than that what they're gonna make on the entire card. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, it's a win.
They're still 40 cards a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they can take a loss on one card and make it all back. Like that's why they're worth billions of dollars.
Hmm.
They're they're just a machine.
It's amazing how far the sport has come in what, 25 years or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Even in
nuts.
the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Like when I first started fighting, so my first amateur fight, Like Anderson Silva was the champ. Uriah Faber was the champ. Like those guys weren't making nearly what the champs are making now. Like
Right.
the sport has come such a long way. It's honestly a blessing.
Yeah. That's everything though, too, right? I mean, think about even baseball players, basketball players, they're making more money than ever before.
Yeah, but they were making a butt ton of money 10 years ago.
True.
UFC fighters weren't.
Right. You're right.
You know, these
Yeah.
guys, these guys like back in the day, like 10 years ago, were making like 25 grand for a title fight.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like now, now fast forward and you're getting guaranteed $1 million if you're fighting for a title.
Right.
That's a huge jump. That's a huge jump.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could go back in time and give yourself advice at the start of your career, what would that be?
That's a good question. Um, I guess that I would have branched out and tried to work with like more coaches. Like um, like I might explain something to you one way. I might show you how to throw a proper right hand, and maybe it just doesn't make sense. But Joe down the street explains it to you just a little bit differently, and it clicks.
Hmm.
And I think that the more people that you try to learn from, and the more you become like a sponge as far as like learning different concepts and techniques, like you get better. And I think that the more people that you learn from and surround yourself with, the faster you'll develop.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
It really is. Um, I got my son in some baseball training, and I was very apprehensive to do it just because he's only 7, and I didn't want to throw him to the wolves just yet. But I think it's really important, and so many other kids are doing it. They're doing different training programs. There's so much more um, we have access to that we didn't have when like I was growing up. Like I would really show up to practice. The coach would dump out a black bag full of helmets and bats, and you'd share everything. Now every kid's got their own helmet, their own bat, their own bag, or everything. But what I'm seeing the coaches like they're it's just so involved. Like they're teaching these kids what's the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. So like what I'm saying is it just you have access to it. You have it's there for you like to take advantage of it. So it kind of goes to what you're saying about, learning and taking advantage of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, even back when I was wrestling, I would spend the summers like with different people. I would stay with different coaches for like a week or different wrestlers, and I would stay with them for weeks, like a week here, 2 weeks there, and I just learned so much about wrestling just from spending time with different people and different coaches and and seeing different philosophies and different techniques.
Yeah. What do you think you'd be doing if you weren't in the UFC?
I've worked every job you could ever imagine. Like I grew up roofing. I was a roofer. I did a lot of hazardous removal, non-haz removal from the public schools. I worked in restaurants. I did carpet cleaning. I cleaned carpets for this company for a while. Um, I've done every job, like landscaping. Um, I've done everything. Like I've worked every job you could ever imagine. Um, I don't know. I'd be working something though. Like I've done security. I've done it all. So I mean, I would find a way. You know what I mean? Like I've worked since I was a kid.
Do you think you get involved in some kind of training to help, you know, the youth?
Yeah, I mean, The problem is with coaching is it's tough if you don't have if you're not emotionally invested. So like if you don't have your own kids involved, it's hard to be invested
Yeah.
if it's not your kids. So that's tough. But um if I was going to coach, I would probably have to go back to my hometown and coach just because like my coaches that were there when I was in high school are now the coaches of my high school again. And like I couldn't coach like a rival high school. I would have to go back to my high school. And I think about it a lot, and maybe one day I will,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about it all, sometimes. But yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, Outside of fighting, what do you do for fun?
I live on the water here in Mantua in Jersey. We live on the river. I got jet skis, I got a dirt bike, four wheelers. Yeah, we have a lot of fun. And then when it gets warm, I volunteer at a farm in Carney's Point, and we have like five or six racehorses. They're all harness races. They're all harness horses. But the one that I was working with a lot was his name was Fred's Knight. He actually won 8 races last year. Yeah, so
Awesome.
that was cool. Yeah. So like let's say they have a race on Friday. So he'll jog them Monday, Tuesday, and then he'll train them Wednesday, and then jog them again on Thursday. So I'll help with the jogging because he might have two horses in that race that weekend. So I'll go in on the days that they're jogging. I don't train them because I'm not like experienced yet. And I'll help with the jogging. We'll do like 5 miles and where you just jog them around the track just to get them ready for the race. And it's cool, man. Like yeah, it's cool. Like I'll when I'm jogging them, like I'll just try to keep them at my pace that I'm comfortable with. But then you go and you watch them that weekend and they're going like 100 miles an hour and you're like, God, he could just take off on me at any point.
Yeah,
It's cool though, but yeah, I enjoy that. I love being around horses. Like horses for me have always been like the most amazing animals.
they really are.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And besides that, like I'm a parent. Like I got two kids and I love my kids, so
That's that's an amazing thing.
yeah.
Being a parent. What do they think of their dad when he gets into
My
the ring and gets?
my daughter loves me. She's like my princess. She's 5 and she's like such a girl. But she's good. Like I scare her. So like if we go on like the dirt bike or the jet ski, like she's like scared of her shadow. So
Yeah.
I scare her. But and my son is only 9 months, so
Oh wow.
he I could see him being a little more of a daredevil. Um, but I can hang out with my daughter all day. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's usually what I do. If I'm not at the gym, I usually hang out with my daughter all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of each too. That's awesome. I do too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a boy first and my daughter. Yeah, that's that second kid thing too. It's no joke. They try and keep up with their older sibling, and she's a terror.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely more challenging when you have the second one.
Yeah. And one thing that's good for you is you'll be able to you'll be that scary father. No boy problems.
We'll see. We'll see. You know, in
Yeah.
5 years they might just. I might not be that scary,
Yeah. Yeah, I
but
think yeah, it doesn't go
hopefully,
away.
or maybe she'll be scary. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Teach that confidence. Yeah. That's like my number one thing. I want her to be confident. Like both of them, obviously, but
Yeah.
my if she looks, I always say I hope she looks like me, and not my wife. My wife is a 12 out of 10. I don't even know what I've done right in the world to deserve it. She's not only beautiful, she's super smart too. But if she looks like her, I'm in a lot of trouble.
That's cool, man.
A
I'm
lot of
happy
trouble.
for you. That's good.
Yeah. I listened to a quick thing with Jim Norton and Matt Serra, and they were talking about Atlantic City, and you said something about Atlantic City that I really loved, and that you said you loved that town, and I always say that I love that scumfuck town. I love Atlantic City.
Yeah.
I have a good friend out there that does a lot of like big events, like the Atlantic City Beer and Music Festival, and a bunch of big productions like that. And before we had kids, we were there probably too many times a year, but it's like it's big enough to feel like you're not overwhelmed, or small, I should say. It's got a nice like balance, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, before we were old enough to go to Vegas, I mean, we could hop in a car and be in Atlantic City in an hour and a half, So, for us, Atlantic City was like, Atlantic City made it possible,
Yeah,
you know? Um, and Atlantic City is like a poor man's version of Vegas.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I grew up going to going to Atlantic City.
yeah. It's a cool town.
Yeah.
As long as you don't stay there too long, you know. But
Yeah.
I told you in the beginning that this is typically I interview a lot of musicians, and this year I started this whole thing because I wanted to be arts and entertainment. They just kind of gravitated towards a lot of music. So again, thank you for your time. I promised myself this year I was going to kind of expand outside of just musicians. But since I talked to a lot of musicians, what type of music are you into?
I like country. Um, I like EDM. Like I love have you ever heard of the Big Booty mixes?
No.
They're like they're all mashups.
Okay.
It's like an hour long of mashups that they take like, different songs and they'll take the beat of one song and add it to the lyrics of another song, but they're pretty good. I like it. That's like another form of EDM, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I'm not like huge on rap, but once in a while a good rap song will come around. Um, I like country. I like old rock songs. Yeah, I was like always like a huge Red Hot Chili Peppers fan when I was a kid. Um, yeah, I like Zach Bryan, Chris Stapleton. Nowadays,
Yeah,
that's yeah.
it's all good stuff. All good stuff. Uh, One last question, I'll let you go. What's one piece of advice you give to young fighters trying to make it in the UFC?
That's a good question. I think you just gotta like build a life around your job. You know what I mean? Like you build your life around fighting. So like for me, my whole life is built around fighting. So I live when I came time to finding a place to live, it was as close to my gym as possible. My friends are all people from the gym. My um everything I do is all based on fighting. Like on the weekends, I get together with my teammates and we watch the fights. Like everything is all surrounded by fighting, and I think if you do that, no matter what your job is, if you build a life around that, um, like the more time you spend doing something, watching something, obsessing over something, like you're gonna get better at it.
Yeah,
It's like a recipe for success.
yeah, it's good advice.
Yeah.
I lied. I said one last question, but I guess the final question would be, I know you said that your last contract is over. What's next, uh, for Andre?
Like I I want to fight in the UFC. The UFC is the greatest promotion and the biggest promotion in the world as far as fighting goes. Um, so if it's up to me, I'm gonna get a new UFC contract that's gonna be nice and pay me well and make me rich, and then they're going to match me up with big name fighters, and I'm going to get historic matchups and make fights that will go down in history as some of the best fights to ever happen. That if it's up to me, that's what's going down.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, I hope that's the case, man.
I appreciate that.
I really do. Yeah. Well, I'll be watching for sure for what that's worth. I really appreciate your time. You have no idea what it means to me to, take an hour out of your evening away from, kids and more important things. So thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it.
You got it, brother. Have a good night.
Andre, take care. We'll see
See
you.
you, brother.